welcome back to Planner Craft. I'm Natalie, and today we're going to be doing some work with baubles. So I have a transparent bauble I'm going to be working with today, and this has a 10cm diameter. And when you're first starting to work with baubles, the way to work it is to go larger first and get used to that technique, and then slowly size down. So hopefully you can all hear me okay, and just let me know. We've altered a few settings thanks to some advice from Lou, so we will see how that goes. And morning Deb, morning Carol, morning Thea. How am I feeling? A little worse for wear, but I will do my best. So we will see how it goes. We're going to do some little baby steps today, so if I don't manage to do it all, we can always split it into two. And thank you for letting me know that you can hear me okay. Can I turn the sound up a bit? I can kind of, but I think I might get told off. But let's see. I'm just going to turn that up slightly. Let's see how that goes. That's turning up the background noise a bit too much. So we have an issue where it's picking up a bit too much. So it's managing to pick up the fans and bits. So we've been trying to sort that issue out. So I'm just going to turn it up very, very slightly, just for Carol, but we're going to be keeping an eye on that situation. Okay. Hi Linda. Yeah, so if possible turn me up, just because I don't want to reintroduce too much background noise, otherwise it just gets a bit annoying, because I know when I watch the videos back I'm like, ah. Okay. So today we're going to be doing some work in Shortcuts a lot and Morning Joyce, and I'm just going to get you up on the phone so I can still see comments, hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay. So with that, I'm going to switch across to Shortcut Look and change across to display. So I've already imported my design that I want to work with, and I've also given myself a reference shape. Okay, so if I click on this, it's just a circle created with the ellipse tool, and I've just sized it to 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters, so that we have a perfect circle. So now what we need to concentrate on is how to get this design into a three-dimensional form that we can put onto our globe. So if you've worked with baubles before, you'll know Christmas in particular can be a bit of a pain because it's a long word and it ends up curling. So what we're going to do is actually see if we can actually work with that to actually help us put that on a little bit easier. Okay, so let's see how we go. So first of all, I'm going to bring my circle into my mat, and you'll see that each of your individual bits is going to be selected like so. If we click on the group so that we have the whole group selected, we can then drag that over our shape like so. Now I want to resize it because obviously at that size it is way too big, but you are going to also want to press and hold shift so that it's going to keep proportion. So as we're dragging, you're going to press and hold shift, and that's going to keep proportion. Okay, let me just see if I can just change the view on Ian's phone so I can see the chat box a bit better. So if you're watching on YouTube and I miss your comments, I do apologise, but I will try my best. It's not the biggest screen I've got you previewing on. So let's move that again back over our bauble. So our bauble is a three-dimensional form, which means that if we were to cut this as it is now, our Christmas is going to curve upwards and our Merry is going to curve downwards, meaning that we're going to get kind of a crossover in the middle, and we want to try and avoid that if we can. So one way of doing that is to actually try and pinch it, if that makes sense. So if we go to Effects, you can use Bulge to give it the appearance that you've already put it on the 3D surface. So if I go on that so you can see what I mean. And we can actually set how much of a curve we get. And what it should do, she says, is update that preview. Now if it's not going to work, just because it's one of those days, let's do it together and see if that will work. It may just be just having one of those days. There we go. So you can see it's starting to go, so we can pull that up. And obviously what we want to do is the opposite. So rather than bulging, we actually want to try and push these two together. So push this top one down. Here we go. Like so. And we can sort out how much that curves from that point using that curve there. So now our bottom curve, and we're going to take the opposite way so that it matches. So you've got this kind of squeeze together in the middle, and then those outside edges are going to start to pull away from one another. Okay, so that's my first piece of advice, is just try and tweak it slightly so it's going to fit a little bit better. The other thing to bear in mind is that we don't want to wrap our text all the way around that first half. We want to bring it in a little so that it's got a border where we can actually attach the two pieces together permanently if we want to. We also might want to add a decorative border to one side, so therefore we're going to want to bring that in just a little bit more. So again, select the group and press and hold shift to scale it down, and about there. Next, with our Merry, where we've done that curve upwards, you might find that you get a little bit close in some places. So I'm just going to lock my guide circle just to make my life a little easier. And let's get those characters there. So I'm just clicking and dragging over the top. Then I can use my arrow keys to just nudge. Now you may also decide that you want to use two different colours. So if we go across to our palette, we can go to Fill and Colour, click on the little black square, and let's just pick a colour. So it doesn't matter what colour we actually pick, because obviously our colour in real life is going to be provided by our vinyl, so we can just use red and black if you want to, or red and green, even if you're going to then go and cut it in gold and silver, just so that it's kind of a visual reference that your two pieces are two different colours. Okay. So with the group selected, I'm just going to go and do I want to group those together? Probably not. So I'm going to careful not to get the dot with your eye. Get that Mary, and I'm going to put it up this top edge of our mat like so. I'm going to get my Christmas, and I'm going to take it over this side like so. So hopefully by the time that we've actually layered that onto our piece, we'll have catered a little bit for that bend so that we can get those to fit a little bit easier. And finally our locked layer here, we're just going to delete that because we've done our reference piece. So yep, that's great. We've got our shapes onto our mat, but how are we then going to cut them out? So we want to add to each shape a weeding box. Now it doesn't have to be a rectangle box, it depends on what actually suits your design. But I'm just going to do a little rectangle there and a little rectangle there. So there are two reasons why we do it this way. Number one, it makes it easier for weeding, so you can see straight away which bits you're keeping and which bits you are getting rid of. It gives you somewhere to test the quality of your cut to make sure that it's gone all the way through, or all the way through the vinyl rather than all the way through full stop, ideally. And it means that you don't waste too much vinyl if you're working with full sheets. So because this is a two-colour design, I'm going to be working with half sheets so that we can just focus on those particular areas. Okay, so with those done, I'm going to just select those and move that up to that corner again. Move it up to that corner. I don't want it to go too close to the edge. And if we go to the little spanner, you just want to check that everything is set to cut. And as long as it's set to cut, it's going to cut. Which is good, we seem to be all right. And then we can send it to our machine. But before we do, we need to do a little bit of work over on the machine. So let's go overhead. And I'm just going to flick back and just check for any comments, just because it's a little bit difficult for me to see. Morning, Kareem. Don't worry about being late. Oh, Sally. Do take care. Fingers crossed. Hi, Mum. That's okay, Thea, don't worry. It can be a little bit tricky to see on screen sometimes. Okay, so mat wise, I'm using an artistic mat for my silhouette too. I have a few different ones now, so it's cool. So I did say I would say why I'm using my silhouette as opposed to my scan and cut, and that's because it was rather poorly at the weekend. It did not want to do what I wanted it to do, and it certainly didn't want to do it the same each time I wanted to do it. So we took a view that as I was supposedly going to be streaming on Monday, I've had better ideas, but as I was supposedly streaming on Monday, we thought it would be better to take the view of, okay, that's not going to work, what should we do instead? And we did and ah about putting the CM there instead and having a CM week, but we thought, well, it's about time I got brave and actually had it go with the silhouette on stream. So I'm going to be using some Graphtec vinyl today. So I have some silver and some gold, and I thought those two would look really nice combined into one bauble. And let's go from there. So first of all, I'm just going to set my mat to one side while I get the trimmer. And we need to trim our vinyl. So my Christmas should fit on this bit here. So hopefully I can just trim that off and use that. And you can see here where I've cut into a weeding box previously. So I've been using a fold sheet. I'm just going to cut all the way along there. She said. There we go, get that last bit. And I can set that rest of that vinyl to one side. And let's just trim this end here. There we go. Nice and simple. Okay, so there's one bit, and our other section is going to be roughly 4 by 2. I can actually just do that one here. Now to measure the floor, I'm just going to pop out a little ruler on my guide so I can go. Okay. So now I'm going to bring my mat back in, and we're going to use the squares on our mat to line for vinyl. So everything I'm doing on the silhouette, you can do exactly the same on your scanning cut. If you don't want to be bothered with using things like background scan. And our top square is going to go up here along this guide. There, like so. And then our other piece can go from this corner and line that up. Like so. I'm just going to lightly tap that down. Okay. Move the excess out of the way. And fingers crossed, hopefully this will turn on. She says hopefully. Okay, so welcome to the silhouette, and for those of you fancying one, let's lower the camera a little. There we go. So this is a silhouette cameo 4, and let's see how we go from there. So first thing I'm going to do, take my mat and I'm going to load it into the machine. So on the machine there's a little grey line just here, and that's where we line our mat up to. And we're going to load that in. Okay. So with that loaded, we're going to go back to our computer. And I will quickly check comments on the way. Just so I can see. Let's have a little look. Yeah, not the scanning cut today, it's the silhouette. So scanning cut's got to be reset back to the 1.54 update. So I'll have that emailed and hopefully we can do that later. And we'll see which one we work with for the rest of the week. Okay, So, display. Now, having never done this live, I would do a thing of, I should get this right, really. But, yeah, it's one of those. So, I'm going to go and cut with Silhouette Cameo 4. And we can see that we have our two elements of our design on our mat. Now obviously at this point, if you're working on your scan and cut, you could do a background scan, and basically if you're working in shortcuts a lot, you just go and export it to an FCM and take that to your machine, whichever way you want to do it. So if you want to import it into Canvas and send it Wi-Fi, you can do it that way. If you want to put it onto USB stick and stick that inside your machine, you can do it that way. And if you have a USB printer cable, you can just literally drop it from either your Windows or Mac. So it's a little bit different on the Cameo in that we actually connect to it within Scout. And I use a USB just because it doesn't quite hold the connection if I do it Bluetooth. Oddly enough, if I do it on my iPad, it's absolutely fine. It's just my Mac Mini that has a bit of a glitch. So moving down here, we have the settings that you should be kind of familiar with if you are working with a CM. So I can set my blade depth in the same way. So we can go down to a 2. You can do multi-cuts if you want to go around repeated times with thicker cardstock. However, if we go here, we also have some presets which you won't be used to having if you are on the scan and cut. So if I go vinyl, and it's going to go, okay, blade depth 2, pressure 9 and speed of 8. Now all of these are editable, so don't think, oh right, okay, so I've got to be able to do that. No, not necessarily. You can still go back in and you can change your pressure, you can change your speed. So if you're thinking, I'm not sure that 8's going to do it, that's fine. You can always alter it. And I think everything with that is okay. Now if you've got print and cut, what I will do is a little video on how you do that, so that you can actually start to use printable vinyl, which is another cool technique. And another piece of advice I found with having the Cameo on shortcuts a lot is don't bother trying to use the calibrate function or the test cut. It doesn't like it. Just stick to just the cut. So with that said, fingers crossed and off we go. So I'm going to tell it to cut. And let's see how it goes. So the first thing you will notice is you're going to be very grateful right now that we turned the mic down. Because it's a little bit noisy, just a tad. But what we'll do is to try and cut it out a little. It does have a little flap. I haven't expressed my teeny tiny hairs yet. I have the die cuts ready and they are going to be on, well, probably next week's shows now, because I want to do a little globe. And you see what I mean. So, here we go. Fingers crossed. So, as we've now done our cut, this is where we're going to use our weeding box to just check. So I'm going to try and not bang my head on the light or on the camera mount. And you just want to peel a corner and just check it peels off nice and cleanly, like so. Which looks really promising. And if you ever do multiple colours, even if they are the same manufacturer and type, just do a little check for both, because there's nothing worse than unloading it and going, oh dear, that one didn't cut. Okay, so if I hop back to display, just so that you can see what shortcuts, a lot what we'll do, it's going to say the cutting data was sent to the machine, and just go OK. And that is ready to go again. So back to the overhead. Now at this point, because we've done everything we want to do with our cutter, we can unload our mat, which is our little down button just here. And it's going to spit it out. And we can turn that off for now. Which is there somewhere. Come on. There we go. So now we can peel these pieces off on that. Now just be aware, because these aren't now cut, they will start to lift a little, but that's okay. Now my advice would be to work with the bigger, more awkward piece first. Now as a beginner that's going to feel like that's not the way to go, but work with it. Because it's going to be far easier to fit the easy piece around than to try and fit the difficult piece around your word. So I'm just going to alter that camera for you so you can see a little bit better, and then we will be back. There we go. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to weed off this outside square. Now, if you're working with something that's really intricate like a mandala, I would say work the other way around so that you do your little tiny pieces first. But for something like this where you've only got a few smaller pieces, then you can do it this way around. Okay, and if you're feeling really frugal, you can use that outside piece as a mask. But just for this one, I'm just going to go with that. So let's take out these pieces. Come on, there we go. And there's a little tiny piece just in this here, so I'm going to take that out. And this is where, if you've got one of those little nail polish holders, they do come in handy. Okay. There we go. And let's pick the one off my cutting mat. Like so. There's one done. And let's do this one. So again, going to go for the outside, peel that off. Now if you do get something like this where your E lifts off because it's naughty, don't panic, just give it a gentle tug, and I'm going to use the waste that's still there just to guide my placement, like so, so that I can go back on the mat. I'm going to lift that up now, it's gone a little bit wonky donkey. So this is where we can use the little scratched, etched area of our backing. Actually bring that piece back up. There we go. And that can go there. Now we just need to do the R's, and that one's done. this point you might find it easier to just cut this section out so that when you are using your transfer tape you can just have just that section available, but to be honest, with my transfer tape you can probably get away with it. Just because I don't want to open a new one, let me see if I can find my open one. Did we have a big tidy up? Yes, we did. So, let's go for this bit here and see if it's strong enough. May not be. So I'm just going to rub this down over the top. Now, if we work from the back, we're going to lift that up, and if it tries to lift, just do a little bit of a stick down. Okay. Come on. This bit just here to be. There we go. So you want it to look like that. Then we can choose which half we're going to use as our front. So go for the better quality of the two. And let's go. Oh, it's going to go straight there. Okay, fine. The other thing is to go with it. So don't try and fight it, go with it. Now with that stuck on there. First of all, I'm going to work along this bottom edge because Christmas, not having any descenders, makes it nice and easy to work that way around. And you may find that as soon as you do that, your transfer tape starts to kind of lift off. That's okay. Just going to use transfer tape just to slowly sort out any letters that are still curling. Now, if you get a bubble like this here, there's a couple of ways you can tackle it. One is with a hairdryer and just heat it and gently move the bubbles that way. But with something like this where it's just one letter, just peel that back off so that it's left it floating, and then follow that round with your finger. And okay, we have Christmas. And let's see if I can put that on a white background for you so you can see that a little bit easier. Like so. Let me just... Hey, Carol's ordered the pretty acoustic. I do like that stencil a bit too much. So I've actually got a few projects in mind where you'll actually end up using that one or creating something a little similar. Just because it's such a handy stencil to have this time of year. Because you can use it for lights, you can use it for snow. It's funky. Okay. So again, going to give a nice strong push down onto the desk and just peel that backing off. So that's an especially useful technique to use if you're having to work with transfer tape that may have seen better days. You can use the same piece of transfer tape multiple times, so don't throw it away. Okay, now just because I'm thinking it would be easier to do this on white, I'm going to move this out of the way temporarily. And let's bring this down. There we go. So with our Mary, we know that it kind of nestles in up here. So I'm actually going to start by concentrating on that so that it goes between the C and the H. Then I can bend this around like so. And again, if you get anything that starts to lift or bubble, don't panic. So what I'm doing is very gently just tapping it down so that I can get it roughly in place, and then I can attack it with my hook tool after. Okay, so this one here is okay, just needs a little press and that will come out. Okay, this little bubble just here, just going to lift that. And same with our E, I'm just going to lift that out there and place that back down. And move on to our R. So again, just follow it round and it will come out eventually. So if you've got the little one just there, there we go. And it's all about taking your time, enjoying the process. Don't get worked up about it, it'll get there eventually. There we go. And things like dots in eyes, if you lose them, don't panic, you can just use a little gem. And there we go, we have our little Merry Christmas bauble. And if you want to, you can pop your two halves back together. I'm going to show you an idea for actually how we can just work with one half later on in them up. There we go, we have a Merry Christmas bauble with a little bit of a tweak and a bit of time. You can get just perfect. So I hope you've enjoyed that. It's a little bit shorter than usual today, but I did kind of expect that. So I hope you've had fun. I will quickly check on comments once I've put these bits back up on my desk. And I hope you've had a bit of inspiration for today. So I will try and take a photo later, just because I know this isn't going to behave to do a nice photo on here. There you go. More than one use for double-sided tape. And hopefully you can kind of see that. Which transfer tape do I recommend? The one I'm using is the Tech Wrap. I know they have altered the manufacturer of it a little, so you may not find it with the same purple grid, but it's one of my favourites because it's got that grid on. It just makes alignment a little easier. Oh, and Carol, you got some texture paste as well. Well done. And Thea, you're welcome for the little bit on warp. So there's a little bit on the technique in the Designing with Vectors book. What did you say about curving the text? Did you say to warm it? If you get bubbles in vinyl, you can sometimes get it to come out with a little bit of a like a hairdryer over the top. I wouldn't say heat gun because I think that's going to be too much and it's going to ruin the adhesive on your vinyl. But with a hairdryer, not too warm, just over the top, and sometimes you can just get it to just go where you need it to. And I'm sorry to hear this the video conked out. Saw that in design about enhancing in scale. Okay, yeah. Yeah, scale can handle a lot of the same functionality, so there will be a scale version of Designing with Vectors that will be coming out next year. I'd had hoped to do it this year, but I've been concentrating on the project book, so those that have designing with vectors can do all their projects, and that's a really fun one. So I take you right from creating a card blank right through to creating a full crafting collection by the end of it. And you're welcome, Shane. So, hope you've all had fun. And if you would like me to show you some other baubles, then do stay tuned, because I've seen a few different ideas that I want to introduce you to, including ones where we use like the clear bauble that I've just shown here, but you just use half of it. And then I want to do some photo ones too. So that could just as easily be a name that I've put onto that bauble. It doesn't have to be Merry Christmas. Now, if you go onto the Plancraft page where the course is, which is in events, you can actually upload photos of what you've done, and we would love to see them. So don't be afraid to show us how you get on. Here's another food for thought for you. You can actually foil onto your vinyl too. Did anyone see your video, Tracy? My mum did. I know that. When are you hoping to complete the new book? Will it be out for Christmas? I am hoping to have the new book out by the end of next week. That is a very big hope at the moment with health and everything, but I'm hoping to get the new book out for the end of next week. If it isn't that week, it will be the week after, just because I've also got samples to do for DT, which are really cool, and I'm really enjoying playing with the stamps. So keep an eye out for that one. And I think I just catch up with the multi-stream just in case. No, it's not going to show me. Okay. But thank you to those of you who are watching on Twitch and YouTube. And if you have any questions, then message me the usual ways. And those of you that are watching on Facebook, you can drop your questions in the group too. What's that about the DT? No, as in my DT work, Tracy, not something for you to do, don't worry. However, me saying that, I have got a bit of a project for you next week. So, tomorrow, I think the stream may be later, because we might have a bit of a surprise for you. So, it probably won't be 11 o'clock, but it may be a bit later on in the day. Might give you a hint as to what might be happening. Then on Friday, I believe off the top of my head I'm doing the Advent card. So those of you that are members will be able to watch that one. Tracy did a really good video yesterday on it. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday or Monday, one or the other. And that covers the kind of affinity side of the project, so I can then show you some ideas too. There is a blog piece up on plannercraft.uk that Deb did with some more ideas and how she used it, which is absolutely fantastic. And there will be some more blog pieces going up with it as well later this week, whenever I'm able. So, if you want a member, go and get joined up. Whether you do that through Buy Me a Coffee, so that's buymeacoffee.com/plannercraft, or you can do it through our CF Fund page, which I'm sure Tracy will pop up a link to at some point. So don't worry about doing it on the video, Tracy. You can do it afterwards onto the group. If you aren't in the group, please do answer all the questions and we will let you in. you will also see, if you go on the Plan and Craft page, a group for the Christmas House Workshop. That's a paid workshop, so you do need to purchase entry first.